Hey, welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and behind us is the little Skoda Kamiq, the baby SUV of the Skoda range.
That's right. It's not just a good crossover, apparently it's perfect. Let's go and find out just how perfect it is. So the world of compact crossovers is getting pretty busy nowadays, but it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be another one, and Skoda certainly believes there should be. Hence the Kamiq. And they're saying it's perfect for what we need to cross over from the urban jungle into wilderness. But let's have a closer look and just make sure. From the outset or from the front, you can certainly see which family it belongs to, the dominant Skoda wing and the Skoda badging. The side round here, look at this, these crystalline details, which gives you access to LED headlights and also LED DRLs. I actually really like this. It's really artistic. Skoda is saying that their lines are very crisp, very sharp, and I have to agree. Bonnet lines, very dominant. As you go through here, the bonnet actually comes into a very strong shoulder line, and then your belt line again. Very, I mean, it almost cut your finger on it. 17-inch feet. This is the Ambition Plus, so it's the middle of the road one. Actually, basically it goes from Ambition to Ambition Plus to Monte Carlo, and we all want to go to Monte Carlo, right? Further down, so roof rails, black privacy glass, rear black quarter here. Look at this, a panel here to make sure you can see out from virtually every angle. Personally, I think it looks more like an elevated estate car, but you know, SUV is where it is, or crossover, so you know, we'll go with that. Round the rear, some more Czech bohemian influenced design here on the rear tail lights that actually come down to a really nice point down here. Roofline spoiler. The Skoda badging is gone, it's now Skoda lettering. You would have seen that in the Scala before. And again, some nice lower balance down here, which would probably have some, I don't know, maybe some fog lights in the model above, but not really sure, but really nice. In here, 400 litres of trunk space. It's got a full-size spare, and also some really simply clever, as you'd expect in Skoda, the torch that's magnetic, some cargo nets, some little cubby holes and some hooks, just really making your, I don't know, driving experience that much better. Speaking of making your driving experience that much better, let's take a look under the bonnet. Under this really heavy bonnet is a 1.5 litre turbocharged engine that gives you 110 kilowatts and 250 newton meters of torque. It's actually quite punchy once it's on the move. We were coming up some hills earlier and really just took them in its stride really well. Speaking of taking things in your stride, let's go inside and Matthew will walk you around there.
Instead of doing a walk around, because that's sort of Dave's job here, I'm gonna just do the talking here. Let's call it a talk around. To start off with, you would have just seen how heavy that bonnet is. Well, that sort of theme rings through with the cabin here actually, because the doors, I've got to say, have a really reassuring thunk to them, and they feel nice and heavy in your hands. That Skoda sense of quality really comes through their model range, and this Kamiq is no different. Speaking of that Skoda quality, as you push on the panels and various pieces across the dashboard, you'll find that none of it creaks and none of it jitters about. It's all very solidly put together. Part of that Skoda quality that we've come to expect over all these years. Speaking of which, you get plenty of soft touch plastics and rubber across the top of the dashboard. Feels really nice to touch, and there's a change in textures as well. That's cool. Similar texture goes through the top of the doors over here, which are also covered in soft touch plastics and rubber. However, that's where it stops, because below that everything is hard scratchy plastics, but you know, that's kind of something that you should be fine with this middle range Kamiq. It's not really a bother, and if anything, it adds to that robust feel. These seats, all fabric, though you do get this cool design in it, similar to the crystalline design that you get in Skoda's LED lights actually. You also get the 2 colors of stitching. That's a cool touch to just add a little air of creativity to this cabin. The seats themselves are really comfortable fabric and very supportive on your lower back and just comfortable for long journeys. One thing that Skoda is famous for is their simply clever ethos, and that rings true with this cabin as well in terms of the storage spaces. The door bins, well, they're massive and can easily hold a 1-liter bottle and some more stuff if you like. The glove box, well, that's huge as well, and as soon as you open it up, you get a little light in there just so you know what you're reaching for. You also get a nice storage space just under there for your phone, which also turns into a wireless charging pad on the top spec model. You also get 2 USB-C chargers right next to it, which not everybody has USB-C these days, so Skoda have been very kind to provide us with an adapter as well. In the middle here, we have 3 cup holders, 2 for your coffee cups possibly, and 1 for the espresso shot. But one of the cup holders actually has these little rubber dimples on the bottom. These rubber dimples on the bottom are actually there to grip the bottle so that you can take the top off a bottle one-handed without, being distracted on the road. That's a cool feature. That is really simply clever. In terms of other storage spaces, you get Skoda's infamous jumbo box in the middle, which really isn't that big, but it's something you get as standard across the range. How nice of them. Enough with the storage spaces, let's take a look at the infotainment screen and the dashboard. The infotainment screen is Skoda's smart link system, which is really easy to use actually and just really crisp and clear. You have the radio and your mobile phone controls and of course the smart link controls, but you can also take a look at some of your vehicle statistics, so your kilometers per liter, your average speed. It tells you all of that. Go back to the menu and you can also play around with the media inputs. You can adjust the sound as well. There's an 8-speaker audio system which comes standard across the range. That sounds pretty good actually. You can also adjust the air conditioning from up here, funnily enough, which is weird because there's some perfectly good air conditioning controls just down here. And lastly, something that I find really puzzling about Skoda cars, there's a section for all the legal documents. That's something to do if you're a bit bored one day. But anyway, what's not boring is this gauge cluster actually. It's got classic analog dials in Skoda's fashion of 100 RPMs rather than 1000, and you get a little black and white dial of a Kamiq on the screen right there. The car also has eco mode, and the light will flash up whenever you are going into that mode when driving. And it's just plain simple, really easy to read, and there's no frills. It's just what you need to know is what you get. In terms of the steering wheel, it is leather wrapped and feels nice and premium with these solid thumb grips up here. It is a multi-function steering wheel, so you also get your volume controls on the left side, and on the right side you can toggle around with the screen just in front of you there. Now before we move on, let's take a look at the space in the back. At the back here, you've seen the windows and along the side of the car. There's plenty of air in here, and of course plenty of space because this is an SUV/crossover. In terms of knee room, I've got a ton of that in front of me. This seat is set as far back as it'll go, and the car performs really well. I've got a ton of foot room as well below. Nice place to move my feet around, and quite a bit of headroom at the top here as well. Now, you don't get a central armrest here. That's standard in the top spec model, but it is an option across the range otherwise. Being in the back of this car is a really comfortable place to be. But the front is even more comfortable. But before we take it for a drive, let's show you quickly all the simply clever bits that this Kamiq has to offer. Simply clever stuff all done. Well, let's see what's smart about the way this car drives. Let's take a look and see how that 1.5 liter turbo petrol does its job.
So like we said before, crossovers are becoming a bigger thing, particularly compact crossovers, and Skoda really have come to the party with this Kamiq. The word itself is a translation, or can be translated into the likes of second skin or perfect fit or something. There's a whole heap of sort of things that surround that, so it makes it quite I don't know, relevant for this. And also, being a K, fits in with all the rest of its Kodiak and Karoqs and things like that. So, you know, really, you could sense there's a theme going on here.
It's the K's and Q's. They all have their starts with a K, ends with a Q, and even the fascia and, you know, those little touches all kind of are synonymous with the Skoda SUV range. But remember, this is a crossover, and it's something you'll certainly notice because you do sit a bit lower than your average SUV, but that certainly helps with the driving dynamics. The car doesn't roll that much, and the fact is that it's got an amazing turning circle, frankly. It just spins around really easily. The steering wheel is, you know, light and easy to operate. And speaking of light things, there's plenty of light in this cabin here. I mean, look at the size of the windows.
I thought you were going to talk about me then when you said speaking of light things. You're right, the platform is, or the chassis is very solid. It's proven throughout the VW group, and the turning circle is great for around town and for trying to get in and out these little spaces. So yeah, perfectly correct. The engine is worth noting. I think it's a really strong engine. It does still suffer a little bit of turbo lag when you're going off the mark, but once it's on the move, it's great. So the same with the gearbox. The 7-speed DSG is, you know, proven faultless, really.
I mean, they do a really good job of, you know, working in tandem, and certainly, as Dave said, it's a notable thing that this is the engine you should get, the 1.5 liter turbo, especially if you're doing a lot of motorway driving and stuff, you know, where you'll need that power. You can certainly see the difference. Reading the brochures and all the promotional materials will have you believe that the 1 liter turbo is actually the more efficient car to go for. But on a day like today, we've been doing a lot of driving up hills and up steep inclines, and I don't think that the 1 liter turbo has the advantage here.
No, the claims of the 1.5 is what, 5.8, 5.9 litres per 100, and we came from Auckland up to Orewa and got roughly that sort of figure. We're sitting now on 7.4, and that's just because I've been in sport mode and away from there. But it's actually not far wrong with what they're doing. Driving position, as you'd expect, is fine. You know, the ergonomics of the whole car are great. Steering wheel has a nice touch, nice feel, nice leather bound, and actually pretty limited road noise as you're going through, to be honest.
I mean, everything about this car, you know, is a good fit. The engine, the build quality, the amount of space you have here, the storage spaces as well. It's a really good fit for what they wanted it to be in terms of a crossover car, because driving around the city, you know, you've got place to store your water bottle and your phone, your coffee cup. You know, they've even thought about taking the top of a bottle off one-handed. It's, you know, all those little things that really make up the Kamiq.
It also comes quite loaded with safety and driver aids, which is cool. You have lane keep assist, you have cruise control that can be turned into adaptive if you want to pay that little bit of extra money, which I would. Blind spot. Many car companies say they've got reversing cameras. This one's crystal clear. I mean, it's high definition. You could watch your TV in it, or just get the kid to perform back there and put that as a YouTube channel. There you go.
You can also actually adjust the color ratios of the reversing camera screen and the sound as well, whether you want it to beep or not. And it also has this key feature of the driver alertness monitor. So if you're feeling a bit drowsy and a bit sleepy, it'll, you know, ping and let you know that you shouldn't be driving anymore.
I shouldn't be driving anymore. Or any less.
As we noted earlier, with the exterior, there's some really strong lines and a lot of character going on actually, which is, you know, great to look at. And I've got to say that white probably wouldn't be my first choice of color for this car. I don't feel like it brings out that design language as much as say a red or a blue might, but that's just my opinion.
So there you have it, the all-new Skoda Kamiq. Skoda say it's the perfect fit, or really the perfect crossover, and they're not far off actually. It does fit in well with the urban life, the turning circle's really good. Possibly more of a perfectly adequate estate, I would say though. What do you think?
I think certainly that large rear quarter glass is a bit of a confusing factor, but you certainly can't doubt the build quality and the capability of this car. It's definitely a great city vehicle, well suited to that kind of driving, and comfortable, frankly, even on the long roads. It's got the power.
Yeah, enjoy the 1.5 litre, that's for sure.
Thanks for watching.
Make sure you subscribe. Be around here.
And while you're at it, hit that bell icon to stay notified every time we make a new video.
Cool. Thank you.